Good evening. We're going to call this July 30th special meeting to order in the Aquilina Howe building, and Dr. Gale has agreed to lead us in the pledge. So, everyone stand.
Good evening. Could you please stand, face the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to have a change to the changes and additions that you may have picked up outside, and it's in order for us to put in a section for persons to be heard. So let me just read through the changes and additions. The superintendent recommends approval of the changes and additions to the July 30th, 2019 school board meeting agenda as presented. Number 1, add in item 3.02, persons to be heard. Then that moves down to number 2 will be add item 303, salvage and sale of buses. Reference only number 5420, Jefferson County needs these buses before the start of the new school year. Then we have item 303, which I'm confused about.
Number 3, add item 3.04.
Add item 3.04, 2019-20 School Resource Deputy Program Agreement Contract. Did not receive final documentation until Tuesday, July 30th. Do I have a motion?
I move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Bowen, second by Ms. Rasmussen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you. Okay. So what we're going to do is move with our proposed tentative budget for the fiscal year. And we have a presentation. Should I read this now? Okay. All right. Superintendent, I believe you're part of this presentation.
Yes, Madam Chair. So we had an extensive conversation yesterday at our agenda review and during the executive session. I have Ms. Banks and Ms. Coughlin here that'll just kind of review the highlights that we discussed as far as what the advertisement was in the paper with the millage rate and what implications that has on residents and taxpayers, and then answer any further questions the board has after now having seen the budget, the proposed tentative budget for well over a week and having I don't know how many hours we went yesterday, but
3.5.
there you go, 3.5. An extensive conversation yesterday that was also very productive.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Ms. Banks and Ms. Coughlin.
Okay, we're going to start off on page II, similar to what we did last week. The first thing that we need to talk about again is the rollback rate. The taxing authority is the School Board of Leon County, Florida, and the millage rate to be levied is 6.167, is more than the rollback rate computed pursuant to the section 200.065 paren 1 Florida statutes by 0.93%. So again, just like we talked about last week, the millage rate that we're proposing to levy, the 6.167 mills, is higher than the rollback rate, which requires us to do a public advertisement. And if you turn to page 6, pages 6, 7, and 8 are basically copies of what ran in the paper this past Saturday. On page 6, you can see it shows last year's proposed initial levy was $14.5 million. The actual property tax levy was $13.9 million, and this year's proposed tax levy is $117.2 million. So again, even though the millage rate is decreasing because it's more than the rollback rate, we are required to place this advertisement in the newspaper. And again, the rollback rate is the rate that we would have to levy this year to bring in the same amount of revenue as last year. Are there any questions on the proposed millage rate or the rollback rate? If not, I was going to hand it over to Naomi to go ahead and talk through the budget real quick.
Okay, if we go to page 8, that's the, like Kim said, this appeared in the paper on Saturday. Everything you're seeing in this package is exactly what you saw last Tuesday night. We can't change it until after it's advertised. So everything we've discussed about what you want to add and what the changes you want to make, that will be reflected in the next month as we work on the budget. But this is what we had to advertise, so nothing here changes. So I'll quickly go over the budget summary. As we said last week, it breaks it down by the funds that we have to, that's how we allocate our money, is by funds. You've got the general fund, which is our everyday operating fund. That's what you use to pay your utility bills, to buy the paper for the schools, to pay your salaries. Anything that it takes to operate the school district comes out of that. Then you got special revenue, which is your nutrition services and your federal programs, and those are, we usually don't go into those because they're very specific based on the project that you get on how those dollars have to be spent. Debt service are the debt service things that we're paying off as the bond issues, any type of loans that we've had, we're paying those off. And you can see every year that goes down because we're working on getting them paid. We haven't accrued any new debt in the past few years. Then you got capital projects, and that particular fund there, the capital outlay brings that to y'all earlier in the year, and you approve the capital outlay plan. So those are where those dollars are allocated after you've approved that plan. And then we have that small trust and agency. Kim was asking about it. It's probably 80 years old. It's something that started back in the 50s. It was a $20,000 trust for Lively, and they can only touch the interest on it. We can never touch the $20,000. It's forever never a trust there. So if you go to the next page, page 9, and this is where I said I'd talk about the general fund a little bit, and we talk about the revenues. And what we do is we look at where we were as of last Tuesday, where we ended up 18-19, and this is where the revenues are. There might be a little bit of change. I don't foresee a whole lot of change in what we already have there. And then the 19-20 revenue, that's set. I mean, that pretty much is what we're going to get. The only thing that might change a little bit is at the bottom where you see the ending fund balance, because we're completing all types of clearing up and clear entries in the district office. But you can see some of the changes in the state funding would be like the Best and Brightest for Teachers, that now instead of it being a grant where they send it to us after we send and request and send the teachers in, they now make it a part of the FEFP with lots of different ties to it and how it can be allocated out. But that's about the major change. I mean, you can see we are getting additional funding because we are getting that big $75 more per weighted FTE than we got 75 cents last year. So we're getting a little bit more this year. So I'm not making fun. We'll take anything that's given. I mean, it's much better than 75 cents. Or was it 42 cents?
47.
Yeah, from last year. How quickly we forget. But unless you've got questions on the revenue here, we'll continue to the next page. Okay. The next page takes that revenue that you saw on that front page. You got all the revenues, and then we reallocate that out and how we spend it. So when you look at it, breaks it down. You can see our major expenditure that we have is the staffing plan. That's the school. That's the school budgets. That's our teachers, our principals, our guidance counselors, the custodians for the schools, their operating budget, their substitute budgets. All that's in there. So you can see the staffing plan is well over 50% of the entire general fund budget. Then it just breaks down. I won't go. You can look, and there's the back because you've seen this before. It's been out on the web if anybody has questions, but it breaks it down into the individual areas where these funds are allocated out. And if you get down to the next to the last line where it says the unrestricted fund balance, after we've allocated out everything that needs to be paid for, what's left is called your unrestricted fund balance. And right now we're ending with 17.1 million. So a little bit more than where we ended last year, but we did some things last year prior to the final budget being done that caused it not to be about the same. So if you go,
Hold on, let me speak to that, because this is the part I like the most about the whole budget. And it's a great document. So last year, if you remember, we had the unrestricted fund balance of X amount of money. We went through negotiations. We all had our priorities of where that money should be spent. We gave salary increases to all of our employees, our blue-collar workers, our teachers. We went back and reduced down to the 3% mark, our unrestricted fund balance, and gave teachers then an additional $500 So it was $1,500 across the board, plus the performance pay of $150 for highly effective, and I believe $125 for effective. This year, we received about a little over between 3 and 4 million of new money.
Well, actually about 5.5, but we had increased costs that came off the top of that.
Right, which is also the increased cost of healthcare that we talked about and FRS contributions. But we've also added to that fund balance by, again, pinching our pennies and savings and doing some of the things that we've done over the last several years, to where now if we draw down to 3%, which is what I recommend, it would give us $7.1 or $7.2 million of new money to look to fund your priorities as board members and my priorities as superintendent. We had talks yesterday about those dollars. I'm just really excited about this. This is all good news. I think our employees are going to be happy. I think our teachers are going to be happy. We're able to again push more money down to our schools in operating expenses to help with elementary field trips, and there's money there set aside that we've talked about for restorative justice and nonviolent communication practices, and money for blue-collar workers, and money there as we negotiate with LCTA. So I'm really excited about that $17 million and proud of our efforts this coming year. How long we can continue that momentum, I don't know. I mean, at some point, the legislature, we need help. And we can always, we need more money, we need more money, we need more money. But I think all of us are committed to making the best of what we have and making the most of what we have and looking in line by line and say, okay, these are things that we want to continue to fund, or these are things we don't want to continue to fund and want to shift into other areas as priorities change. But I'm over the moon with this $17.1 or $17.2 million, and very proud of the efforts of Naomi and other district leaders to think outside of the box, to take advantage of all of our title programs, Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, IDEA, and all of those federal programs, to make sure we are maximizing those dollars, because that only increases what we can capture back in the general fund if we're doing that. So this is the effort of Kim and Naomi put a lot of time and effort into this and making sure that we were capturing every single penny moving forward, that we can do some good work with that over the course of the next year.
And then the next few pages are just you can see there's numbers next to that. If you wanted to see what makes up those totals on that overview sheet, it's all on those next pages. And like I said, I won't go into great detail unless y'all have specific questions. The next few pages, like page 14, is just the same numbers. It's just showing them in different ways. It's showing them by object code, which is the areas that we spend it on, like salaries, benefits, supplies, on page 14. And then below that, you've got it by function, and that's the area that it's spent on, whether it's instruction, guidance, media, administration. It just breaks it down. It's the same numbers, just breaking them down in different ways. The page 15 is just comparing our last year's ending fund balance with this year's estimated fund balance. And then the rest of the document is basically the federal, all the special area funds, that unless you have specific questions, I'll gladly go through it if you want, but we don't have to unless you've got questions. And I think we would like to, if you look on page 22, which is the cost to the homeowners, we always kind of like to point that out, because based on the millage rates that the legislature gave us, if you had a $200,000 home and that value did not change from this year to next year, we know it doesn't happen, but if by chance a miracle happened and you didn't get that 3% boost on your property value, you would save $30.80 from the school board on your millage rates. So we actually are reducing the millage rate, but like Kim said, because the property values are going up, we have to show it as a tax increase, just a teeny tiny, but we still have to advertise it as a tax increase. Any questions?
Ms. Rasmussen.
Mr. Superintendent, because I know there are folks in the audience and I can identify a few of their particular interests, would you like to talk about what you're recommending in this package, a continuation of your arts funding and recess, right?
Thank you for yes, I would love to. So last year we committed an additional $1 million to support the arts and athletics after-school programs in our middle and high schools, to encourage kids to get involved without putting an extra burden on our families for the expenses it costs to participate in some of these activities. And the goal was to reduce cost to be in the band at Lincoln High School, or to be in the chorus at Leon, or to be in steel drum, or to be a cheerleader on the lacrosse team. And the feedback I've gotten has been wonderful. And I think there's some people behind me that have benefited from these dollars that we have earmarked to support these programs. We talk a lot about how important the arts are and athletics are. We know that kids that participate in after-school and extracurricular activities, they're more likely to come to school and they're more likely to graduate from high school. So I think it's a wise investment. I thank you all for taking my recommendation to continue this investment for the next fiscal year. Hopefully we can continue to do that for a long time, but at least for the next year, that we can continue to do that to reduce the burden placed on our families, along with increasing the operational budgets for our principals, to have flexible spending to reduce the school supply lists that our parents are faced with year in and year out. We have a lot of outside agencies that are helping us with school supplies. So I'm proud to say over the last now 2 years, we've put an additional $1 million down to our schools for operational spending, an additional $1 million down to our schools to support the arts and athletics, an additional $1 million down to our schools this year to help them buy furniture and equipment and things they need to operate their school at a high level. It's just us making good on that commitment to reduce administrative overhead and costs out on Pensacola Street or Never Never Land, and to push those monies down, not to mention the 4% plus raise we gave the teachers last year, and that $7 million, we still, even with doing all of those things, we still have $7 million earmarked to do some more good work this year and continue all those other things. Chief Hunkyar's here. We are way ahead of the curve when it comes to safety and security. Before what happened in Parkland even happened, Leon County Schools was a model for other school districts when it came to the area of safety. That is first and foremost our greatest responsibility, is to protect our children and our personnel. We take that very seriously and have committed resources in addition to what we receive from the state to ensure we are not only complying with what the law says, but exceeding at every single turn. We've allocated additional resources to mental health. And so many other good initiatives that I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of this board and my leadership team. And again, looking for creative ways to think outside of the box to make these things happen for the people that are behind us. And to me, that's our job. That's one of the major reasons we're here.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I might, I know we've all listed our priorities and we each have a specific area of concern, and there's other people in the audience today who also have a specific concern and want to see a lot of money pushed toward one thing. I often say teacher salaries, teacher salaries, teacher salaries, but then as we discuss these things and as we look at our budget, we understand more that the need is everywhere. It's not just teacher salaries. It's not just Title I schools. It's not just the arts. And we're trying to take care of all of our students. So I just wanted to share a comment today that I received from a principal. He sent me a very, very kind email and just wanted us to know that because of the fees that we gave them last year, he said he's been able to cut band fees nearly half and has eliminated fees for other fine art students, but not just in arts and athletics. He said, because of that, I was able to divert dollars from my flex funds into my programs for science and English classes as well. We have also greatly reduced the fees for families of our athletes. And he said, I cannot tell you the impact this has had on our parents. And so it was as we discussed, it was really cool. And this is the kind of feedback we talked about. Let's see if we can get this, on a regular basis, so we know it was spent well. But this was an affirmation to me that money was spent well, and just very grateful for this board and this superintendent for placing a priority not just on a certain group of students, but on all of our students.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything? Well, I'll just say I'm really excited about what we talked about yesterday, and especially looking at our elementary schools and looking particularly at people who are not as well off, and pushing money to them for the experiential things that we want our children to have, like field trips and good technology. And so I thought we made a real leap forward yesterday in our discussion of how to distribute that money in a real new way. And I'm very proud of the whole board, and you have signed on to that, because I think it's it's going to provide a lot of relief to our parents who sometimes can't go on those field trips or can't sign their kids up for athletics. So this is going to be a lot of help, I think.
Well, I think, Mr. Jones, if this is how government should work, you know, you have 5 elected board members and an elected superintendent and all the collaboration we had yesterday, and every one of us have priorities, and we were able to blend and merge all those. Did all of us get everything we wanted? No, but we got a lot. And we worked together to come up with a plan that we're a united front, and we feel something we feel good about. And I'm just really proud the process worked like it's supposed to.
Mr. John?
Now, what we discussed yesterday in the agenda review is not reflected in the budget that we currently have. We'll visit that information, will be included in subsequent iterations of this budget,
That's
correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
Okay. I am going to open the floor now for public discussion of the tentative budget. Hopefully you have signed a speaker card. Ms. McKinney-Williams, if you would go ahead and call our speakers up, you have 3 minutes to comment.
And these are for individuals who want to speak on the budget. There will be an opportunity, if you're speaking on some other issue, to speak at a later date in the meeting. Patricia Sunday, if you would come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Patricia Sunday, my maiden name. I wanted to speak to the budget. As you might know, I'm a former school board member myself, and I know how you work within the confines of what you have coming in and going out. And I think your superintendent and your board has been doing a great job so far. I have been watching you on television.
You and 3 other people.
Yeah.
Watcher.
But when it comes to the budget, I am a real stickler for watching out for other people's money. And to me, a $3,340,000, $842, that's a lot of money added to the budget for 1 year. I know that you said that it was a teeny tiny amount. If a person pays, that it would only increase $30. But to me, $30 on increase, that goes on my house payment. And I'm on a set budget of Social Security. So $30 is a lot to me. And the superintendent mentioned that you had a $7 million earmarked left over. So I'm wondering why some of that can't be used for some of this for the next year, so that, this can be cut, because I understand the school capital outlay. That's great. We had the 1.5 mil too, and it seemed to cover everything. But I'm looking at this as this is at the discretion of the school board, this new proposed tax. And I sincerely ask you, for the people of your community, that you revisit this for such a large increase. And I know that it sounds silly that each person has just a small amount, but to me, it's a large increase, and I just wanted to voice my opinion against it. And I thank you for hearing me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sunday.
Thank you.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
The only portion of this millage rate that you have any discretion that's the .748. The 3.919 mil is dictated to us, is given to us by the legislature. We have to impose that millage rate or we will lose our state funding. You can't lower it. You can't raise it. You have to levy that millage rate or you will lose $135 million. That's what we get from the state. The .748 mil that's discretionary. You don't have to levy it. You can reduce it because it is discretionary. So is the 1.5 mil. But you got to remember, for every mil that we have, a mil generates $18 million. So that .748 generates $13 million. So if you chose not to levy that, you'd have to cut the budget to make it balance, to make up for that. I just had to, so that everybody understands, there's only portions of that levy that we have any control over as a board, that you have a control over as a board.
Let's go to the next speaker unless you,
Didn't you say on a $200,000 house, it would be a decrease of
A decrease
$30,
of
not an
$30,
increase?
Not
Okay.
an increase.
The next speaker, Dr. Benny Bolden, Jr. you please come to the mic, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Dr. Benny L. Bolden Jr., 2500 Merchants Row Boulevard, Tallahassee, Florida, 32311. I just wanted to step in here and tell you I am so thankful for what you did. You have become a trendsetter because you supported the arts. I believe in it. I am an arts teacher. I'll always be an arts teacher, and I don't ever want you to take that away. I know you talked about invested in teachers, and we're still investing in teachers when you gave that money to the arts, because in that room is a little boy, a little girl just like me who became a teacher. So you're still supporting those students. You're still supporting teachers. So thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for becoming a trendsetter and doing something different. He said likely. We are likely to graduate. And I just finished my dissertation. I guarantee there's research to prove that they do, not likely, score better on standardized assessments. They do graduate because of the arts, because of what you did. And then he also said that we are a model when it comes to safety and security. We're now a model district because of what we did for the arts. Because you gave that money, you had just became a model district. I applaud each and every you. There is no cap on what we give for kids, and I'm glad that you're giving this money to the kids and to the students, because 2 of them in this particular county are mine, and I don't put no cap on what I can do for my kids. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very nice.
Madam Chair, the next speaker, Lee Commander. Give us your name, address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Lee Commander, and my address is 206 Weatherbind Way West, Tallahassee, Florida, 32301. The Leon High School Band has been a staple of Tallahassee history and tradition for nearly 80 years. In fact, as this meeting is going on, nearly hundreds of students around Leon County are participating in band camps getting started on their secondary music education process. I'm here today to thank you for the funds you have provided for secondary performing arts programs in Leon County. For a Leon High School marching band student to participate in an in-town football game, the band is required to take 3 school buses and 2 equipment trucks. This averages $500 a football game. For the band to clean their uniforms one time costs over $1,100. These 2 costs alone rack up nearly $10,000 before music drill, instrument repairs, equipment repairs, or uniform repairs, or other necessary items to maintain a high-quality band program have ever been figured. Last year, the funds were able to reduce every student by $125. This year, students again received another reduction of $50. These funds have continued to help impact families that are faced with larger financial struggles. I'm also pleased to mention that as these figures have decreased, the retention for students in these programs have increased. I thank you all for your continued support of the arts in Leon County schools and look forward to the continued musical successes of all of our students.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next speaker, Bill Proctor. Give us your name, address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Mr. Superintendent, may I distribute this document to members, please? Okay.
Sure.
Mr. Superintendent, members of this board, Madam Chair, I come to you today on behalf of the citizens of District 1, Leon County, to share with you a letter which I sent earlier today. And simply the letter serves as a follow-up to my previous correspondence of July 24th regarding the Florida Standards Assessment Test results and the community urgency to enhance student performance in Title I schools. As the school board welcomes additional monies for its next budget year, I implore you to invest an additional $4 million annually in what I've titled Project Student Success 2020 over the next 5 years to improve reading scores across the 12 Title I schools in our community. Project Student Success seeks $20 million over 5 years to reach the 90 percentile achievement of students performing and testing at grade level. Based on the FSA of District 1 students, Title I students who are performing below grade level in English, math, science, elementary, middle, and high school. I'll skip a part. Project Student Success 2020 will be fully unveiled this Thursday evening at Bethel Baptist Family Center and is designed to support our principals, teachers, staff, and parents with the cognitive development of Leon County school children. At this community conference, we will present in greater detail the strategies, approaches, required investment to enhance our children's academic performance. I won't read any further. But in total, this is a $20 million ask for the schools that are, and the children who are behind at grade point level. I believe this would be a worthwhile endeavor. We're talking about $333,000 roughly per school over 5 years, which would be $1.66 million per annum to turn the train around. Additionally, I've shared with you the agenda for Thursday's meeting, the welcome by myself while we're here, a presentation of the overview of Title I schools, a response from the Leon County Schools representative with these questions specific for our community that you would answer. How do we increase student performance with sustainable instruction, creating an upward trajectory in their educational development? 2, over 60% of District 1 students are performing below grade level in English, math, and science, elementary, middle, and high school. A, how do we address their individual academic needs? B, what does their future hold? C, what is Leon County Schools going to do to provide each student with a quality education and clearly remedial services?
Time.
Okay,
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor.
thank y'all.
Next speaker, Scott Lehman.
Scott Lehman, 2012 Dumar Drive, 32308. I am the choral director at Lincoln High School and also for Leon County Schools, the secondary music lead teacher. And just on behalf of all of the music teachers in our district, I wanted to say thank you to the superintendent and thank you to the board for the funding that you've given for the arts. My colleagues have said a lot of wonderful things already. Just know that there are a lot of parents who appreciate what you have done, that we have more retention this year from last year because it's eased the financial burden on parents. Our retention rates have increased over the last year. We just want to make sure that you understand how important this is to us and that we appreciate what you've done for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the last speaker, Linda Johnson. Give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Linda Johnson, 2512 Spring Forest Road, Tallahassee 32301. I'm the art teacher at Deer Lake Middle School and the secondary arts developer for Leon County Schools. And I'm here to talk about fine arts funding, the renewal, hopefully, of this program. Sherry Niles, the art instructor at Sales High School, is not able to be here tonight, but she sent me the following to read for you. I was able to use this funding in major ways in my classroom last year. I was able to eliminate the spring lab fee of $15 to $20 per student that I normally collect each semester. My plan is to eliminate the lab fee altogether for the upcoming school year if the funds are renewed. This extra money allowed me to provide quality materials without begging parents for their money. This will affect about 80 to 90 families financially just in my classes alone. Now, speaking for myself, as you may be aware, fees that are collected from students have to be spent on consumable supplies, paper, glue, that kind of thing. Arts teachers have a unique challenge when it comes to stocking their classrooms with the specialized equipment that elevates their programs and offers opportunities for enhanced student learning experiences. Last year, I know that the art program at RA was able to purchase a drying rack, silk screens, and other printmaking supplies that they will have for years on end. I was able to replace my 29-year-old ceramic kiln. I'll say that again. I got 29 years out of my ceramic kiln with a brand new model, a purchase that would have needed anywhere from 3 to 6 years of fundraising in order for me to make. The boost that our arts programs experienced last year through the influx of this money directly benefited our students, and it is my sincere hope that the board finds its way to support our fine arts programs again this year, and I thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are 2 more speakers. Based on what is written on each speaker card, it does not appear that they relate to the budget, so we will move them to the item 3.02.
So, Ms. Bowen, I believe you're going to help us out
Yes.
here.
Madam Chair, I am. I move that the board adopt the resolution determining revenues and millage levied found on page III within this document. And I move that the board adopt the tentative millage rates for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to
Madam
June
Chair.
30th.
Hold on one second.
Need to
I'm sorry to interrupt. Number 3, we need to adopt that resolution. First.
Okay, sorry.
And then we'll move on to A through
All
D.
right.
Okay, so
So you've made that
she's,
motion.
she's made the motion.
Second.
And it's been seconded by Ms. Triplin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes.
Now move on.
Yes.
I move that the board adopt the tentative millage rates for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30, 2020. A, for the local required effort, 3.919 mills. B, for discretionary operating purposes, 0.748 mills. C, for capital outlay projects, 1.500 mills. Total proposed millage, 6.167 mills.
Second. It's been seconded by Ms. Triplin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes.
I move that the board adopt the tentative budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30, 2020, as presented by the superintendent.
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Rasmussen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I move that the board schedule the required public hearing to adopt the final millage rates and adopt the final budget for Tuesday, September 10, 2019, at 6:00 p.m. to be held at the Aquilina C. Howell Center, 3955 West Pensacola Street, Tallahassee, Florida.
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Rasmussen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes.
I move that the board authorize the superintendent to advertise the property appraiser, to advise the property appraiser of the proposed tentative millage rates, including the required rollback rates and the date, time, and place of the final budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 10, 2019.
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Striplin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Is that the end of what we need to do?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again,
Thank you.
Great job.
Kim and Naomi, fabulous job.
Yes, please thank all of the finance
We
staff.
appreciate you all. We're good because y'all are good.
3.02.
3.02, is that going to be,
Public comment.
is going to be for public comment?
Madam Chair, we have two speakers. First, Brenda Scott. Can you please come give us your full name and address for the record? You'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do this. My name is Brenda Scott, and I can talk really fast. P.O. Box 49, Okeechobee, Florida. Moved back to Tallahassee, December of 2018. So I am like a displaced educator, and you guys mentioned the arts and having all my stuff here. This book is called Live Your Life, because you can't live someone else's. And you've been clicking onto your school boards. I remember Mr. Rocky. I remember Miss Joy when I first started teaching, and at Leon, he was the principal. And Barnes & Noble, so maybe the arts, we can do some of that in your schools. And, but sometimes I'm talking and I'm showing this. We have things in South Florida where I was. It was called Heritage Day, and you have stuff like we got a little bit of black history, a little bit of women history, because, you know, in diversity, we're all these things. And like I said, I know Coach Jacobs, Dr. Foster, some of the people have passed. You're trying to help me out. Thank you very much. And I appreciate that. But Down Home News and Live Your Life, Barnes & Noble, if you type in Brenda Scott, the arts, and won't be the starving writer or the starving educator. But I was the track coach here at the different schools. But for some reason, when I got back here, I don't know what's going on in Leon County. It's changed a little bit, and a lot of it. Instead of rocking the 50s, I do my senior games. I go and do things like that. But I'm just wondering why, when you call some of the schools now, you got blockers and you've got hindrance, and I'm looking like, oh, did I do something wrong? And, you know, is it your application? Or, man, what does 50 supposed to look like today? So we just want to know, what can I do to get hired? Mine is pretty simple. I've clicked on everything, and finally I got up with one of the principals from Kate Sullivan, and he, you know, you call the office, the principal's not in. You call the superintendent's office, you call. And finally, I did see Miss Janice at the school board, and she's like, they're having a meeting tomorrow. I'm like, where? And I'm thinking, I'm having my senior moment, where's stuff at again? And so finally, you were here, but most of the time, you just can't get anybody. And you clicked on the positions, and I'm thinking, what do we need to do to get hired? So simply, it's like pray, as my grandma Georgia would say. God knows the things we desire before we even ask. So we just want to know what do we need to do to get, because I can do speaking, I can coach. We've ran track. Like I told in South Florida, when you can outrun your track team, it's not fun to coach them.
Oh.
So be blessed, and I hope and pray this will be a very good year. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. The next, the last speaker is, and I'm going to butcher this, forgive me, Jurassica Terry? Javasia, I'm so sorry. Terry, please come give us your full name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
How you doing? Thank
you all for letting me come. I was coming in to try to talk to you all to try to see can we get some answers about the parapros. Parapros, we're working directly with the kids. And y'all saying that it's all about the kids, but then we getting calls into the office that they said the county is cutting our hours. How can you cut hours with ESC kids? We trying to do the best we can with the little we have, and we don't have anything. They're going to keep on cutting our hours. I'm from 32304, so I know how hard it is to struggle, But at the same time, you're talking about cutting our hours. We half of us talking about $3,000 out of our check for hours being cut. And we work directly with these kids every single day. We shouldn't even get cut. When I was driving the bus, they were guaranteed 6 hours. Parapros need to be guaranteed at least 7 to 8 hours. Because we do most everything for these kids, from tube feeding to changing diapers. We need help. Parapros need help in ESC as well, especially. We don't even have the proper equipment to take care of these kids in the daytime. Sometimes we have to go to the store on our own, out our own money, and pay for wipes, pay for diapers, because we don't have it. So we need some help. Parapros need help as well. We need raises. We need hours. We need to be guaranteed something. I thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
No more speakers.
Okay. I promise you that we will be taking everyone's comments and advice, and the superintendent and his staff will follow up on people who have spoken. So I just wanted to say that. We don't normally comment right back to speakers.
Right, that's fine, and I understand that.
But I just wanted everyone to know that they would be followed up. Right, Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Cox is going to get with our last speaker and talk to her about what school she's at and look into her situation independently. And I agree with her. I mean, we gave parapros raises this past year, the last 2 years actually, as part of negotiations with LESPA, and we'll continue to look for ways to increase pay for all of our employees, but especially those ones that are working alongside with our teachers in the classroom every single day with our children. It's certainly a priority of mine. So Dr. Cox will get her individual story and situation. It hasn't been a district-wide mandate that we cut any hours, So I need to kind of figure out exactly her situation and what school she's at. Dr. Cox will get that information and report back to me, and then we'll look into it. All right?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mrs. Superintendent, would you also, in that comment, include the remarks from Ms. Scott, who has said that?
Yeah, I already talked to Dr. Gale, and Dr. Gale is
Okay.
going to talk to Ms. Scott
Okay,
and
so
find out
that
what
is part of- okay.
what her certification areas are, what jobs she's applied for,
Okay.
and then line her up for
Right.
potential interviews in the next several
Because
several
part of our
days.
discussion has been about having calls return and our public having access to us, to your staff, and I know that it's important on your list. Thank you so
Yes, ma'am.
much.
And Dr. Gale will follow up with Ms. Scott.
And we're getting a new personnel system that's going to make it a
Oh, that's
lot
right.
easier to apply for a job in this district, because right
Yes.
now we have a pretty bad system and we know
Yes.
it. So I understand your frustration.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
The fact that we're getting a new application system, a new recruiting and retention system is the only thing that's given me some comfort through the summer. I've gotten more phone calls that resembled those comments this summer than I have ever. So I don't know if it's the system, which clearly we've already talked about, but I don't know if there's something else going on. You might want to.
Okay. Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I might be about to start a sixth war. It is not my intention to do so, but I feel
And
so.
say whatever you want to.
I feel so compelled to just speak to the work that we try to do. And I don't know another way to handle this other than to be upfront and transparent. I need to thank Commissioner Proctor for being here tonight, and I need to thank him for his perspective as was outlined in his July, I believe, 24th letter that we each received a copy. And we already know that I'm not going to outright my friend, Mr. Proctor. I won't be able to out-talk him either. That's not the intent. But I do need to say that we will still be committed to working with all of our schools, particularly our Title I schools. I believe that Commissioner Proctor's intentions in that 24th letter are as good and as pure as mine in wanting to do everything that we can for all of our students. But there was one or two lines in that particular letter that left me jarred to the core. So I've dealt with myself to see why I was so jarred and so emotionally attacked. And those lines had to deal with a comparison that resembled our Title I schools to the detention centers that were at the border of Mexico with the immigrants. That really did jar me, and I got very emotional about it. And I started to think, when I got a chance to talk about it or to see him, I needed to have an understanding from my perspective, as much as I appreciate and respect him over the years. And I've actually walked up to him and said, you know, Bill, you said some things that I wish I'd said, and he knows that. I need to say that I think our teachers are doing an absolutely wonderful job with what is sent to them from the addresses of our parents. As I look to my right and I look to my left, I believe that I am the only one on this board who has witnessed and experienced up close and personal what segregated education feels like, looks like, smells like, and tastes like, and it's not good. I think I'm the only one on the board who has had to be bussed past the white school to go to her colored school at that time, get out of the bus, go in the backyard, make the fire from the coals in the back of the school, put them in the stove, make a fire that we could warm to, when all of the other schools down the street had their air and their heat. I believe that I'm the only board member who can say that she actually received the secondhand books from her neighbors 5 houses down the road, little Caroline, the little white girl that played with me. I know what that feels like. And so when I read those sentences, I was so jarred by it, because I always said as a little girl, when my brothers and sisters would say, come on, Lois, let's get on the bus, let's get on the bus. And I'd look out and they would say, oh no, that's not our bus, that's the white bus. But it was a yellow bus, just like our bus. I believe I'm the only person on this board that can have that as an experience and understand what it feels like not to receive what is rightfully yours, because your parents have paid taxes as well. And so when I read that statement and was jarred to my core about some of the promises that I'd made myself as a child growing up, with things like, if I'm ever in a position of power or influence, I'm going to do the right thing come hell or high water, if it comes to my knowledge and my information. So I thought about that, and I said, when I saw Proctor, my good friend Bill, Commissioner, the man of the cloth, I was going to say, I need your assistance. I need your help in helping me to help parents understand what the responsibilities are to have their children come to school ready for school. I wanted to have him know that I need to deputize him to help us, so that as elected officials, we can understand how this job of educating our students is for all of us. I said that I was going to tell him that I understand that improvement is always possible. And in our school system, we can still do some things to improve what we do. We're not perfect, but it takes all of us. I said I was going to walk up to him and I was going to say to him, it's going to take us, Bill, working together, and I need your help in mobilizing the parents of these precious resources so that when these children come to school, they can come to school ready. That you can help me stand shoulder to shoulder and say to parents, when little Joy or little Bill leaves home, let them know that you want them to check their behavior. Because when they walk into a classroom, you want them to know you expect them to learn, You expect them to sit down, you expect them to be attentive, and you expect them to bring that education home. I want to ask my commissioner, the man of the cloth, to help me rally these parents so that when our precious resources come to school, mad, bad, sad, and wet, that we can understand that there are some other needs that they may have that somebody did not fulfill. I said that I was going to say to him, as he already knows, I'm a mama, a grandmama, and a great-grandmother. I know what it feels like to have children that you love so much until sometimes you stand in between what they really need and that love. I know what it feels like to be embarrassed when you have a child that you don't want folk to know needs some help, or that you've not been able to step out and find and say, I need a special IEP. And I was poor growing up, but I'm not poor now. God has blessed me with some resources. And so when I talk to parents, I'm talking to all parents. I'm talking how we all have got to step up and help us do what we need to do if we are going to continue to educate these children. When children have parents who are interested in their learning, I guess I need to say I'm not talking about all parents. We have some absentee parents. So I'm talking to the absentee parents, those parents who just for whatever reason haven't found their way to the schools yet. I know what it feels like to have a mother with 2 dresses. When her children got in trouble, she would put on her good dress and she'd go to what she called a schoolhouse, and she met with that teacher or that principal. She did not go in there cussing and fussing and taking the child's side. She walked in and say, what did Junior do and what did Georgia Dolores do? I want to know, because if they were wrong, I will straighten them out. I believe that we have some teachers like that, and I believe we have some parents like that. I believe that we have some parents who understand and will say to their children, I said I was going to say to my friend Bill, you represent this family. Don't you go out there and make me shame. I just believe that we need some help, Mr. Commissioner. I think that if we had more parents involved in their children's learning and teaching, our teachers could do a better job. We have some good teachers. All are not 1,000% all right. The majority of them are. And then we have some parents. We know these children leave home cussing and fussing because they've cussed us out, and then they come to the school and they cuss the teacher out. Now, I know my phone is going to be blowing up and people are going to write me up in the newspaper. But at this point in my life, do what you have to do, because I'm starting to feel a little sick and tired. Like Fannie Lou, I'm sick and tired. We're in this together, and I'm tired of the finger pointing. I'm tired of us sitting back. I'm tired of being told, Miss Bowen, that's happening all over the world. That's happening all over the United States. I do not live all over the world. I do not live all over the United States. I live right here. What are we going to do as we embrace each other? How are we going to make the difference? Our teachers can't do it all. And you know what? The last time I checked, and I wasn't good in math, but I think that our children were at least in school 7 hours a day, and there was another 17 to make 24, I think. What are they doing those other 17 hours? Where are they? I don't know. Somebody ought to know. Is it my responsibility to know? Are they at the parks? I don't know. What do they do? What's really going on? What are parents doing? What do we need to do to help our parents put their best foot forward and send to us their best? Somebody's going to say I'm beating up on the parents. I'm not. But we do beat up on our teachers and our principals when we send them. Why are we expelling all of these students? Why are we suspending them all? Well, Mr. Superintendent, I think we need to back that thing up. let's look at those students that have been suspended, and let's backtrack and see how many of the parents of those 225 students at one of our schools that have been suspended, the other 215, what's happening? Who's helping them? Do they have that kind of parental support? I can say that as a grandmama with children that grandchildren that I've had to go into school with, that I loved very much, but were not cutting the mustard the way they did. So at this point, to be transparent and ask these parents to help these teachers and to help us out, it would help learning. And I'm not only talking about the Title I students, I'm talking about all children, because all of us have some problems sometimes with our children. Those of y'all that come from all this money, y'all got some problems too. And those of us without the money, you know we have some problems too. And when these children that we have not educated and have not trained get ready to want a telephone, to get ready to have all of these other pieces of equipment that they can't afford, you know what they're going to do? They're going to find a way to take it. What are we doing? I am just asking my friend, Commissioner Proctor, a man of the cloth, who has influence, prestige. When Bill Proctor speaks, people listen because he has been the voice of so many people for years and years. He is a long crying voice out there. But to help us continue to tell the truth and be transparent as we in this community help our children. Yep, we can do better. I'm almost done. I want us to get parents to understand that if they need some parenting, ask us. Don't be shamed. Don't be embarrassed. If Lil Joy needs some medication, put her on some. If Lil Joy needs some counseling, get her some. If Lil Joy needs to be Baker acted, Baker act her. Because as we look at what we've got to do in society with the hardening and the safety that we want for all of our children are, every child is as important as any other child. And all of us are taxpayers. And the kids that are disruptive to the other ones that want to learn, everybody needs to have a safe and complete embracing learning environment so that they can learn. So I offer that today in my frustration. And I guess I'm kind of feeling some kind of way too. You know, when you've been on the board for a while and you think you've been doing some good things and you just keep being quiet, Alva, you know what I'm saying? And just grinding away. You're not trying to be like anybody else. You're not trying to gather any limelight, but just keep kind of being the Esther for your people. Just kind of, you know, making some headway. You're not looking for anything. Just trying to get it done. But I just cannot believe that little Joy Bowens, who had to be bused past schools and read books, want to be saddled with doing anything to make Title I children anywhere think that I am comparing them to the detention centers. Because the little Joy is going to remember that my preacher, my teacher, my board member, somebody said that they thought that that's what was happening to me. So again, I ask you all, to include my good friend Bill, to join me to get our parents to stay involved with our children. I ask you, as we start school, to take care in what you do. I heard from the other day that as some of our teachers are trying to get kids at the middle schools, that they don't even have good, clear addresses. They can't even find the kids to get them to come in so that they can get the orientation that they need. So that means that they're not going to get it, and some of them are going to come to school 4 weeks later, and they're going to be behind. And then there's going to be a parent who will not do like my mama did, put on her one good dress, straighten her hair, go out and want to talk. There's going to be some parent who's going to be upset, who's going to come in bothered because little Joy is going to get an F because she wasn't in school. I just have to ask for that. So I just want us to know that I think we can be on one accord. I know that at this point it's probably saying, when is she going to stop? Joy is preaching to the choir. So I just want to thank you for coming and to ask you to join me and us in being the kind of partnership so that we can be active to help our parents know that our children should come to school on the best behavior, and that I think that it is a three-leg stool: the child, with the home as the first school, the teacher, the parent as the first teacher, and the community as that other part. You know what I'm saying? The three-legged stool. We've got to do that. That's where my heart is. That's why I'm on this board. And so, oh wow. I just needed to throw that in. I'm trying to close this. So anyway,
You just keep on going, Julie.
no, I honestly feel that. So as a power of a commissioner, man of the cloth, school board members, we have to take our jobs seriously. Words have power. People listen to us. People listen to us. And given the flavor of what's happening in the United States of America today, we need to be united because we're going to have to handle some of the fallout of what's happening at the national level. Are we going to be ready? I don't know. But you know that I'm telling the truth. So I ask that we are the powerful voices, that we be the conscious of what we need to be and make that difference. No, people are not going to like us. No, we're not going to do what everybody thinks we ought to do. Yes, they're going to be upset about the money. No, the children are not going to still do. But parents have a responsibility to parent as long as that child is in the house. If I had my ideal world would have every child coming to school ready to learn. In my ideal world, they would get the health care that they needed. Their parents would have the jobs that they needed. Everybody would have a car. The infrastructure would be there. They wouldn't come to school hungry. They wouldn't have had to sleep in their cars at night. They'd have clean clothes, toothbrushes, deodorant, and everything in an ideal world. But it isn't like that. But who is it left up to make it like that? I really feel that I am my brother's keeper. And to the extent that I'm able to influence these kinds of decisions and make life better, I'm going to have to borrow this statement. As long as there's breath in my body and I'm on this board and it looks like it's right, I want us to do it. If it looks like it's wrong, I'm going to call us out on it. And that is a promise I will make every day. So just before I drop the mic, I really believe if we could pull these things together, then the achievement levels of our children would increase. Our school grades would be better. I think we start to look at each other as neighbors. I think our children would understand that they represent the parents, or the parents know that the children represent them. And if you allow your child to do anything at home, he's going to do anything at school. So we are going to have parents understand that they've got to help us. That would help us in every regard. I'm trying to stop, but if they come from home cussing and misbehaving, they are going to have to be disciplined. I just needed to say that. I think you understand where I'm coming from. I didn't mean to talk so long, but really, I really did. Anyway, I just needed to understand that our schools are there. These are our children. These are our schools. These are not people that we don't know. And it isn't about playing up. So I thank you, but I'm still upset with you for jarring my memory like that, or making me go back to those ways and things. I think that's enough right now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since school board member was talking directly to me.
No, Mr. Proctor, you had an opportunity to speak.
I got 3 minutes. She had 18.
She's a member of the board.
That's true.
You had your opportunity to speak.
Please read my
Mr. Proctor,
July 24
Mr. Proctor.
memo. There is nothing in writing
have
that
had
she's
an
read
opportunity.
sent to this board. I
You've
don't
had
know
an
what she's
opportunity
talking
to
about.
speak. Thank you for your time. Madam Chair, we're on 3.03.
3.03, anybody else want to say anything?
Mr. Proctor, your time is up.
We're at 3.02. Oh, no, but now it's 03.
Yes.
That's right, because we changed it. So 3.03, salvage and sale of buses.
3.02.
But
It's
we
actually
changed it
3.03.
in the
Remember, we
changes and
adjusted
additions so that
the
we can
agenda?
have.
I was waiting on a motion. Good evening, Board. I'm happy to report that we are in a very good position with buses. and that we are in the position to help a neighboring county, Jefferson County. What I'd like to do is maybe give you the reasoning why we're able to salvage these buses. We have 222 buses in our inventory. We have outfitted 205 of those buses with the post and the ability to do the tablets. 17 of those buses are the older buses, 205 to 222. This lot of 10 is from those buses that we aren't using, and we don't have a use for them, and it is an opportunity to help out a neighboring county. Just be aware that we have done some strategizing for EdgeLog program and with vans, and that we will probably soon have another 30 to 35 buses that will be salvaging along the way. We won't drop them in the market immediately, but we will put those out for sale on GovDeals. GovDeals is a government entity for public auction for public properties, and it's a good way, an approved way to dispose of surplus properties.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if this were to, if we provide a motion and it's accepted, where do these monies go? The $100,000 that we will make from this sale?
It would go back in capital outlay. So capital outlay dollars are used to purchase buses. So it would go back in the capital outlay budget that would then help us fund other projects.
That's what I needed to know. I move acceptance of the recommendation.
It's been moved. Second by Ms. Rasmussen and Ms. Strickland. So I'll say Ms. Rasmussen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No,
Opposed?
no, I'm not opposed. I'm in favor, but I have a question or
Okay.
a statement.
Okay, it passes, and go ahead and ask your question.
Mr. Superintendent, I'm completely in support of helping a neighboring county, and I'm in your best business practices, but remember I don't remember how long ago, a few months ago, we talked about different uses for buses. Maybe the pop-up preschool, the art mobile, the food trucks going in. I mean, can we
So I
think
have
about?
yeah, absolutely. And I have a meeting next week with folks from Second Harvest, along with Mr. Joannis, he just doesn't know it yet, and Mr. Howcroft with Food Service to talk about us partnering with Second Harvest and other groups to provide summer feeding with some of these surplus buses. Yes, absolutely. And also looking at what Ms. Edwards was saying about the pop-up preschool, I'm really interested in that concept as well. But the good news is by consolidating routes, we thought, a couple years ago, we need to start buying buses. Well, the reality is we don't need to start buying buses. We just need to become more efficient in our routing. So, but will allow us then to have a number of buses that we can sell off, or we can keep to support other priorities and other initiatives.
Okay, so I think we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, which is now 304, is the School Resource Deputy Program Agreement Contract.
Good evening. Mr. Superintendent, school board members, for your consideration is the 2019-2020 School Resource Deputy Annual Contract for services from the Leon County Sheriff's Office to 25 of our schools. This contract came to you last year at $1,505,000, and shortly thereafter we made two additions that took it just under $2 million. Through several meetings and conversations with the Sheriff's Office, there have been some adjustments to the contract in the area of capital products, such as cars and vests and those types of things, as well as some adjustments to overtime and fuel. So we have now provided for you a contract at just a little over $2,026,000. And in that contract, the 25 locations are outlined on page 3. Should you approve, I would ask, Madam Chair, if you could cross out and make one addition to item 3.19, which is the Gasvini Second Chance at the Alternative Learning School, which will become over at the AMI location. So just so that we cross out an initial, I did check with the sheriff's office, so we can either amend it afterwards or just make I just wanted to make sure that was brought out in terms of the location.
Amendment?
No, I think he's talking about amended at a later meeting. Is that what you're saying?
So
I think
it lists the program, but the program is listed at the different site. So that's
Okay, so I think what we can do is just remove the term alternative learning school. Just have Gasvini Second Chance. Is it still Gasvini?
No, because what he's talking about is just if we
know.
change the site, it would just become Second Chance Alternative School.
So remove Gasvini?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll strike through the word Gasvini
yes,
on this version. Okay.
works for me.
Sorry. Is the chair on the very last page, is your name spelled right?
No, that's another error I saw when I was sitting back there. They added an S.
Happens
to
all
the
the
name.
time. It happens all the time.
All right.
Thank you for noticing.
Thank
So
you for
with those
noticing.
two corrections.
So
Yeah, I did see that as well.
The first name is misspelled as well.
So with those three,
So-
So
three
we
corrections?
received this document late this
Three
afternoon.
corrections.
Yes.
I would move it, make it,
Second.
I would make a motion to make those three corrections.
And approve it.
And approve it. And
And
As
approve the
as
item
Second.
amended.
it's been
as amended.
seconded by Mr. Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Thank you. And we do appreciate the good work of the sheriff's office. So
Yes, we do.
And,
Yes.
and the turnaround was really quick. So Chief Hunkyard was calling. We just received it today. He called Millie, hurry up, let's get it on there because we want to make it, started before school. If we didn't, then school would have already started. We wouldn't have had a contract. So that's why we needed to go ahead and get it on there. In total, we're probably going to be right at $3 million with this $2 million plus about another $1 million for the off-duty program to support those elementary schools that are not part of this. We did receive a little bit of additional funding in that categorical from the state, I think about $230,000. So in total, we're at about 2.75. So we'll be about $250,000 short, but we're in a better situation than we were last year.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have one item before we end.
yes.
This is required by state law pursuant to Section 286.011 per A, Florida statutes. The board of a governmental entity, its chief administrative officer, and the board attorney is permitted to meet in private to discuss pending litigation. The School Board of Leon County is presently a party litigant in the matters of Shelton versus LCSB et al. And Student versus LCSB. I'm sorry, Okay, Shelton versus LCSB et al., case number 4-18-CV-487 AW-CAS. And then Student versus LCSB, case number 4:18-CV-72-MW-CAS. And 4:19-CV-137-MW-CAS. I request that the board, the superintendent, and the board's attorneys meet in an executive session to discuss strategy and obtain the board's advice related to litigation expenditures and proposed settlement. I anticipate that the executive session should take no more than 1 hour. The entire executive session shall be recorded by a court reporter who will transcribe the minutes and file the same with the board clerk. The transcript of the private session is private until the conclusion of the litigation. And the executive session has been publicly noticed as required by law. Okay?
Do you need a motion for that?
Nope, just providing that public notice that we will meet in private to discuss litigation. That's what's required by statute.
Is there anything
Thank you, Madam
further
Chair.
for the good of the cause tonight?
I do have one observation I would like to make.
Okay.
And perhaps when we go into agenda review, I am interested in I'll continue to use this word, I'm sure ad nauseum, about managing the narrative. And I think that I'm interested in us talking about what progress we're making when we finish this budget process, that the implications of our decisions in this process, how that trickles down, and that we inform our public about what we expect to be the ultimate impacts of the investments that we're making. I think we need to manage that narrative. I think as the superintendent goes from school to school and speaks publicly, and as we, as elected, speak publicly, that we manage this narrative such that we are the ones who are the proprietors of our story, and that we take on the fiduciary responsibility and the implications of the same, and that we tell that story to our public, such that outliers and provocateurs cannot manage our narrative. So I want us to talk about what that process, when we go into agenda review following this budget process, that we talk about what that looks like.
If I could, Madam Chair, just add to Mr. Jones' comments, I just want to remind you all, we have a $60 million investment in our South Side schools at 2 Title I schools that have been ongoing for the last year and a half. That's a significant investment. All of our capital resources right now are focused on those projects of those Title I's on the south side of our community. And I'm very proud of those efforts. And we're going to have a few more ribbon cuttings over the course of the next several weeks that I want to invite all of you to. And I can assure you that our schools will look and do not look anything like border detention camps.
I'm very, very proud of what we're doing as a school district, and our budget, I believe, reflects our priorities and our commitment to all children. And we have put a special emphasis on children in Title I schools during this budget session because we understand that the needs are different and they are greater in some cases. And I feel like we're really working on that while we're taking care of all of our children as well.
We've moved from rhetoric to work.
We have, and we've got some really good proposals, and we're going to follow it up with money, which always, as we saw tonight, is appreciated by our teachers and our principals in our schools.
I once heard a wise man said, if you want to know a man's priorities, look at their checkbook. They can look at our checkbook and know where our priorities are. I guarantee you that.
So very, very proud of what we're doing. And I know that some people have some things they want to go home and do, so we're going to dismiss this meeting. Meeting adjourned.
Talking about.